Israel Adesanya.
28-0!
The McGregor announcing
About a guy who
Hey, what's up the homies? Lay here for UFC Gambling Addicts, back again for another UFC full card breakdown and predictions video. This one's going to be UFC 262. We've got Charlie Olives taking on Michael Chandler. Really good main event. We're going to have a new 155 champion. The co-main event, Tony Ferguson and Beneil Dariush. Underneath those two fights, a bunch of good matchups. As always homies, make sure you hams that smash the like button, head kicks, whatever technique you want to use, go ahead, tag up the like button. Alright, let's get into breaking down these fights, making some picks. Alright guys, we've got Sean Soriano taking on Christos Giagos. I don't want to spend too much time on this matchup, but we are going to speak about it. So for those of you that don't know, Sean Soriano has been in the UFC before. He's getting a return call-up. Does he deserve the call-up? It's difficult to say. Since leaving the UFC, he's won 6 fights, he's lost 3. All of the fights that he's lost, it's come on the mat. Ground and pound, or it's a rear naked choke. So that seems to be the weakness of Sean Soriano. He can't really seem to hang with you on the mat. And that's exactly where I see Christos Giagos taking this matchup. Christos is by no means a super elite fighter. You know, he's chipping away in the UFC at the moment. He's not a super talented guy, but if we look at his last fight against Katlyn Muniz, he showed good wrestling in that matchup. You know, he utilised his grappling and basically beat Katlyn Muniz at his own game. So yeah, that's going to be my lean for this one. I think if Christos chooses to grapple, I think he's got a clear path to victory. There does seem to be a little bit of concern with the gas tank of Christos. He does slow down in these matchups. And that's kind of why I want to fade this one, betting wise. The pick is going to be Christos Giagos though. And I'll take him via decision. My numbers, I'm going to put Christos around -170. And I'll put Sean around +140. Now I haven't even got the odds up. Let me just bring the odds up. And we've got Christos over -200. Sean Soriano coming back +180, +190. So yeah, a lot of people are favouring Christos as the higher level fighter. And it's hard to disagree with that. -200 though. You know, if he slows down in that second round, it could get a little bit dicey. So I'd like to see Christos come down to -170 around that area. But the pick is going to be Christos. Kevin Aguilar taking on Tucker Lutz. Now this is a good one, man. If you don't know who Kevin Aguilar is, this guy is tough as nails, eats metal for breakfast. He has big punching power. You don't want to get hit by Kevin Aguilar. He's looking to put you out. You know, there's no secret to what he's trying to do. He's looking to put you out. Now, if you watch the tape on Kevin Aguilar, he does lean a bit heavy on that lead leg. That seems to be a little bit of a problem. And he also swings in quite erratic. You know, leaves himself open to a level change when he's swinging in for that KO shot. Despite those minor weaknesses, this guy's a good fighter. You know, he can put you out. He's tough as nails. And his wrestling really isn't that bad either. The newcomer, Tucker Lutz. This guy, we saw him on the Contender Series. He showcased pretty decent skill. In all fairness, he showcased a nice low kick, really powerful, really quick. His wrestling, he also showcased that too. The difference for me though, I think Tucker Lutz is going to look to attack that lead leg and basically look to use well-timed level changes if Kevin Aguilar gets over-aggressive. Now there is a flip side narrative. The flip side would be, I think Kevin Aguilar has more experience and he's just going to break Tucker Lutz at some point. That's also quite likely, but I'm going to favour the newcomer here. I think if he uses the level changes at the right time and goes to that lead leg with kicks, he could have a good time. So I'll take Tucker Lutz via decision. My numbers, man, I'm going to keep them close because I like this matchup. Like I said, man, Kevin Aguilar is tough and he's not just going to go away. So I'd put Tucker Lutz around minus 130, minus 140. Kevin Aguilar plus 110, around plus 100. And we have Tucker Lutz minus 115, minus 120. Kevin Aguilar plus 100, plus 105. Yeah, it's spot on. I mean, Kevin Aguilar isn't just going to let Tucker Lutz run away with this fight. Tucker Lutz has to come in with a good game plan. Kevin Aguilar's lost 3 in a row. His back's against the fence. He's looking for blood. You know, this is a good matchup. Alright, homies, we've got Gina Mazany taking on Priscilla Cachoeira. And this one's quite difficult, man. It's quite difficult. So let's start with Gina Mazany. Gina comes into this matchup. I'm not too sure of her UFC record. It can't be great. But let's look at her last fight, right? She done good work. Against Rachel Ostovich, it was good work. But something that sticks out with Gina Mazany is her changing camp. You know, she's working with James Krause. And we all appreciate what James Krause is doing with the cornering, with the coaching. It's good, you know. He was coaching Gina Mazany in that fight on the mat, telling her, you know, work back to side control, work to half guard. You know, he's really there for his fighters. And that's what makes this one kind of difficult, because Gina Mazany, we don't really think of her as a high-level fighter. But now that James Krause is in her corner, not a high-level fighter, but a better fighter, you know? The opponent, Priscilla Cachoeira, or as most of us refer to her, the Zombie Girl. If you haven't seen this girl fight, and you don't know why she's called the Zombie Girl, she basically walks forward, takes all of your punches with her granite chin, and just looks to land her punches. It's almost like her striking defense is just non-existent. You know, it's like she's not even trying to get out of the way of the punches and the kicks. Having said that, you know, she is a warrior. You know, her chin is made of granite. But the chin being made of granite doesn't win you fights. It can hold up and you can break your opponent later on. But if you can't get to that point where you break your opponent, you're just going to be remembered as a fighter that got beat up and had a heart of a lion. You know, which is pretty cool at the same time. Now, the reason why I said this one's difficult, if Gina Mazany doesn't choose to wrestle, or she doesn't have success wrestling, I think the Zombie Girl could land some big punches. You know, she could put Gina out. But how I started the breakdown, you know, I mentioned James Krause. I would have to assume that James Krause does have Gina ready, cardio-wise, for a zombie to walk forward for 15 minutes. I would also have to assume that James Krause is probably looking for a takedown, and that to be the game plan in this matchup. So for those reasons, I'm going to put my faith into Gina Mazany, but mainly because I like her gym, you know. So I'm going to take Gina via decision. My numbers, I'd put Gina around minus 150. If she doesn't choose the takedown though, it's way more closer to a pick'em. Because Zombie Girl is going to walk forward. You know, and she's coming off a nice win too. You know, she uppercutted Shana Dobson. Clean. And we've got Gina over minus 200. I mean, if James Krause has her prepared, ready to take down Priscilla, it could well be over minus 200. I just don't want to see Gina in a war, because she might not win a war. Alright, we've got Jamie Pickett taking on Jordan Wright. What a matchup this is. So let's start with Jamie Pickett. Jamie comes into this matchup 0 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. He debuted against Tafon Nchukwi. He wasn't able to do what Park did in that fight. He was basically outclassed by Tafon. You know, just too hesitant, not enough aggression. Tafon was the higher level fighter, the better striker. Now, one thing I've noticed with Jamie Pickett, he's quite a hesitant guy. You know, not really too aggressive inside the octagon. And that could go against him in this matchup. The opponent, Jordan Wright, comes into this matchup 1 win, 1 loss inside the UFC. Debuted against IK Villanueva. That was a good debut. And then he fought against Buckley, where that one complete opposite, you know? If you look at if you look at Jordan Wright's ability, he's primarily a kicker. But this is why it's difficult. Because when I first looked at this matchup, I was thinking Jamie Pickett, he's a lock. He's a lock bet. He's going to get in there. He's going to wipe out Jordan Wright. That's what I'm kind of thinking when I first looked at this matchup. Now, I am going to take Jamie Pickett. I am making that pick. But like I said, he's quite hesitant. He doesn't get too aggressive. He's not really the aggressor. So if he gets in there and he gives Jordan Wright the respect, if he's watching the kicks and being too hesitant, it's not going to be too clean for Jamie Pickett. It's not going to look too great. But if he gets in there and he thinks, do you know what? I know that you haven't got the punching power that I have. I know you can't trade hands like I can. And that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to get more aggressive than I've been on the Contender Series, than I've been in my debut. If he does that, he could just wipe out Jordan Wright. He could knock him dead. So I think it comes down to where Jamie Pickett is going to be. You know, is he going to get in there and watch and kind of see what Jordan Wright's going to do? Or is he going to get in there, crowd the kicker and force the kicker to trade hands the way Buckley did? My pick is going to be Jamie Pickett. I'm going to make that pick. But yeah, at first, I was way more confident. After looking at Jamie Pickett, I realised it's not too much of a lock. But I'll take Pickett to win this one via TKO. My numbers, I'd put Jamie around -140, -150. And the actual numbers, both of these guys -110. It makes complete sense. You know, if Jamie gets in there and he's not aggressive, Jordan Wright is going to have space to kick. If Jamie gets in there and he's aggressive and forces Jordan to trade hands, now it's a different game. Alright, we've got Andrea Lee taking on Valentina Shevchenko. This is good matchmaking. So let's start with Andrea Lee. This girl has all the skill, all the talent you could want. Her jiu-jitsu is pretty good. Her wrestling, boxing, Muay Thai. She's an all-rounder, you know. She's got the skill and talent. But she kind of reminds me of a Luis Pena. You know, similar situation. The skill and talent's there. But they seem to find themselves in close matchups. You know, can't really pull away with their skill. Andrea Lee is on a losing streak. You know, close fight against JoJo. Close fight against Lauren Murphy, which I believe she won that fight. But still, you know, it's closer than you'd expect. Against Roxanne Modafferi, couldn't stay on the feet. Antonina Shevchenko, this girl is primarily a Muay Thai practitioner. She's basically a lower version of her sister, a much lower version of her sister. If we look at her last fight though, she did improve on some weaknesses. Her grappling hasn't been the greatest, but against Lipski, you know, it held up. She basically mauled Lipski, finished that fight on the mat too. Super good matchup, man, really good matchup. I haven't picked against Andrea Lee yet, which isn't a great thing to be proud of. You know, she's won 3 matchups. She's lost her last 3. I'm gonna stick with her, man. I'm gonna stick with Andrea Lee. I think if she can utilize her boxing, that's gonna be the difference. You know, she has got better hands than Antonina, in my opinion. But like I said, man, most of the time she's in close matchups, and it could be another one. But I am going to side with Andrea. My numbers, I'm going to keep them real close. Andrea Lee, -110. Antonina, -110. And the actual numbers, we've got Antonina -120. Andrea Lee +100, +110. You can't argue. You know, more people are putting faith into Antonina. Not a lot, though. You know, the line is really close. And rightfully so. Andrea Lee has the talent. She has the talent, she has the skill. It's pulling away with it. Yeah, that is going to be my first underdog of the card. Mike Grundy taking on Lando Venata. Another good matchup on this card. We're going to start with Mike. Mike is primarily a wrestler. He's a brawler. You know, if you look at the fight against Evloev, that's what Mike Grundy is looking to do inside the octagon. Takedown after takedown. If he can keep you on the mat, preferably he's looking to do that. The opponent, Lando Vannata. Groovy. We know about this guy. His fighting style is very groovy. He likes to get unorthodox. You know, one of the highlights that he had inside the octagon was nearly beating Tony Ferguson. A better highlight than that, though, the finish against McDessie. Really special. You know, if you haven't seen that finish, go and check it. That's the skill that Lando Vannata has. Lando Vannata isn't really the safest fighter to bet on. I would put him in the same category as Cowboy, you know, Brazilian Cowboy. We know what these guys have to offer. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Mike Grundy is going to look for takedowns. He's going to come with big overhands. He's going to use pressure. And he's going to look to basically nullify Lando Vannata. But Lando Vannata does have some good scrambling. So if you shoot on a single, if you shoot on a double, he's not going to just accept that position. He's going to scramble. He's going to roll. He's basically a lower version of Tony Ferguson, right? So yeah, man, I like this matchup. And I'm going to side with Lando Vannata. I think if he can roll, if he can scramble and get back to the feet, then it's his fight to lose. Now, if I'm wrong in my prediction and he can't roll or scramble from the takedown that Mike Grundy is going to come with, you have to hold your hands up and give Mike Grundy a lot of credit. But that's what I'm going to go with here. I think if Lando is on the feet more than not, he's going to score with his striking, especially the kicks. My numbers, I'd put Lando minus 130, Mike Grundy plus 100. Man, the matchups on this card are just fire. Really good matchmaking. We've got Grundy minus 120, minus 115. Lando plus 100, plus 110. I personally think it should be the other way around. But again, you can't argue because if Mike Grundy can secure the takedown, he's a good pick. Lando has good jiu-jitsu, but I don't really see him submitting Grundy. So it's one or the other. Either Lando is able to strike more than not, or Mike Grundy is able to secure takedowns more than not. That's how you make your pick here. I'm going to go Lando. Alright, last fight on the prelim card. We've got Jacare Souza taking on Andre Muniz. And we're going to start with the legend, Jacare. So Jacare is primarily a BJJ practitioner. Super high level jiu-jitsu. However, over the years, this man turned into a violent striker too. His opponents kind of figured that if you get taken down by Jacare, you're going to get submitted. So he had to evolve, right? He evolved his game where he was more than just a jiu-jitsu guy. He became a violent striker too. To find evidence of that, go and look at what he did to Chris Weidman. Now, I know it's Chris Weidman, right? The guy that just broke his leg throwing a kick. Still, right? Still, look at what he did. It's nastiness. And Chris did okay in that fight. On the feet, he was doing okay. But Jacare, he has become a really nasty striker too. He's seen it all, he can do it all. He's a legend. The opponent, Andre Muniz, also primarily a BJJ practitioner. This guy likes to submit you. So stylistically, we've got jiu-jitsu taking on jiu-jitsu, but the only difference is one guy has been around the sport way longer and one guy is a nasty striker compared to the other guy. But then you balance that out with the age. You know, the newcomer or the newer, fresher fighter in Andre Muniz is fresher. So when you factor everything into this fight, when you put it all together, man, and you look at this one, I think the pick's got to be Jacare. I think the pick's Jacare, boys. Obviously, you don't want to go too crazy on it because, like I said, Jacare is past his prime. But I think a past prime Jacare should have enough to win this fight. And it's been a while since I've picked Jacare. So it feels good, man. It feels good being able to pick Jacare. And hopefully he can finish his UFC career with a win. My numbers, I'm going to put Jacare around minus 160. I know that could age quite badly, especially, you know, we've just seen Cowboy go out to Alex Morono. It could happen, but I don't think so, man. I'm way more confident in this one than what I was with Cowboy. And the actual numbers, both of these guys are minus 110. So the respect is dying out a little bit for Jacare at this point. When you look at what Kevin Holland did, you know, I don't think Muniz is going to do that. And he's not going to submit Jacare. You don't submit a legend. Jack Hermanson was close. But nah, man, come on. We're going to take Jacare here. And if you're going against me, let me know in the comment section, man. I'm feeling good on Jacare. Alright, my homies. You know what time it is. If you waited to smoke with me, amen. If you've been smoking this whole time, double amen. If you're not a smoker, but you enjoy the smoke breaks, triple amen, gang. Let's go. Quick shout out to all the homies. You know, if you're putting the work in on a daily basis, you're on your purpose, you're on your grind, you're on your passion. Shout out to all of you guys, you know. Sometimes it can get repetitive, man. You know, you have those weeks where you think, man, this is repetitive, but you just got to battle on, be a warrior, you know. And obviously next week it's different, you know. You're loving what you're doing, you're loving the grind. But yeah, shout out to all the homies on the grind, on the purpose. And like I said, it gets repetitive, but put the work in, man. Let's keep going. We're kings. We're on our purpose. Let's go. Now, last week, guys, I mentioned I had a high thought, right, about the scout thing, you know. And some people messaged me on Instagram this week and they was digging the scout thing. And one bro even went as far to, he got out, you know, the sticky notes. You know, shout out to this bro, by the way. I think your name's Berkey, I think. He got out the sticky notes and he took his own scout notes, wrote it down on the stickies, and sent me them on Instagram. Good takes as well, man. Good takes. Good scouting sticky takes, you know. So we're back in business this week, guys. My fellow scouts. You know, who are we scouting on this card? Who are we taking? Who's the lock pick on this one? It's difficult to say because this card it's a decent one, man. The matchups. You know, you look at these matchups that we have to break down that we haven't spoken about yet. Shane Burgos and Barboza. Tony Ferguson and Beneil. The main event, you know, the main event is, how do you pick against Charlie Olives? How do you pick against Chandler? That's a good one, man. We best get our scout reports right, guys, because this one, it's a good one. Now, I have got a couple questions for you guys for this smoke break, so be ready to drop the comments on these questions. First question. Did Ludovic Klein lose that fight? Some people have messaged me and said they felt the judging was wrong. So that's the first question, man. What was your scorecard for Ludovic Klein against Mike Trizano? Now, personally, I think Trizano won this fight. I think Ludovic Klein was too hesitant, backpedaling too much. But round 1 and round 2, you know, you can kind of score it for Ludovic, but when you look at the backpedaling, when you look at who was more game, I think it was Mike Trizano, man. My next question for you guys. You see this title fight we have, Olives taking on Chandler. How quickly do you think Islam Makhachev becomes champion after this fight? You know, it's going to be cool, right? It's going to be cool to see who wins this title fight, but let's be completely honest, guys. The reign may not last for that long, you know? It's going to be dope. If Olives gets it done, it's going to be really dope, man. But if Chandler gets it done, it's also going to be dope. But Islam Makhachev is waiting. You know, make no mistake, Islam Makhachev, he's coming for that title. My last question. I've implemented some music into this breakdown. We haven't had music in any breakdown before, so let me know what you guys think of it, man. Just put some chill music in the background, whether you're digging it or not. Let me know in the comment section below. Alright, homies, I hope you had a good smoke break. Smoking that good. If you're not subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And let's get into breaking down this main card. Alright, we've got Matt Schnell taking on Rogerio Bontorin. It's a pick'em. In my mind, this is a pick'em. If you look at Matt Schnell in his last matchup against Tyson Nam, his hands on the back foot, man, they were quick. You know, he looked fast, man. I really give a lot of credit to Matt Schnell because I picked against him in that one. And his game on the back foot, man, it was impressive. You know, it held up. Credit to him. Bontorin, this guy's coming off a loss to Jacare of France. He's primarily a jiu-jitsu fighter. He did have the back of Jacare in that fight, but man, Jacare has good scrambling, good wrestling. You know, he survived. The reason why I see this one being a pick'em, I do see Bontorin being able to take down Matt Schnell, but I also see Matt Schnell having good moments like round 2, round 3. Potentially. This one's just a pick'em, in my opinion. I went against Bontorin in his last one. I'm going to take him this time. I think he uses a low kick, gets a takedown. If he can stick to getting a takedown, maybe even finish him on the mat, he could win this one, man. I'm going to side with the Brazilian. I'm just not super confident. My numbers, I'd put Bontorin minus 120, Matt Schnell plus 110. And we've got Matt Schnell minus 160, minus 170. Wow. I'm really surprised with that. Like I said, Matt Schnell did look pretty fast on the back foot in his last one. But Bontorin has to take that away with a takedown. So yeah, it's a pick'em, man. Alright, we've got Shane Burgos taking on Edson Barboza. This is a great matchup. We're going to start with Shane. So Shane is primarily a boxer. He's coming off a loss to Josh Emmett, where he probably should have won that fight. He had Josh Emmett really badly hurt in that fight. You know, if you remember rightly, he hurt the leg of Josh Emmett, but then he just kind of stopped going to it. You know, he stopped kicking the leg. Edson Barboza, we all know who this guy is. He's one of the best kickers to ever grace the octagon. Whether it's low, body or head, Edson Barboza can finish you with a kick. Usually the way to beat Edson Barboza is to grapple, right? So when you take away the kicks, it's because you're grappling, you're taking him to the mat, you're fatiguing him. Unless your name's Justin Gaethje and you can get in there and starch him, usually you take down Edson Barboza. I know Shane Burgos has better hands than Edson, but again, you know, if you're not grappling, you're letting him kick. Unless you can keep him on the back foot the way Justin Gaethje did, the best way to beat Edson is always going to be to grapple. I'm not too sure if Shane Burgos is going to get in there and do that, so purely for those reasons, I'm going to take Edson Barboza to be able to land those kicks and to eventually stop Shane Burgos. This is a really good matchup though, and Shane Burgos is the better boxer. If he can take down Edson and then box later on when Edson's fatigued, then it's, you know, you're keeping the odds close. I'd put Edson Barboza around minus 130, Shane Burgos plus 100. And we've got Burgos minus 130, Edson Barboza plus 100, plus 110. So same thing earlier on with Mike Grundy and Lando Venata. Personally, for me, I would switch those odds around. I can see where they're coming from. You know, Barboza isn't the better boxer. And if you look at Shane Burgos against Amir Khani, he wrestled pretty well. Amir Khani is a top wrestler and he got fatigued wrestling Shane Burgos. So it all depends on the game plan here. If the game plan is to go toe-to-toe kickbox with Edson, it could end quite badly. If the game plan is to fatigue, take away the kicks with grappling, at least for 5 minutes, it could go well. This is a great matchup. Alright, we've got Katlyn Chookagian taking on Viviane Araújo, and we're going to start with Katlyn. So Katlyn is primarily a point fighter. You know, she likes to kick you a bunch, kind of punch you, but 95% of the punches connecting with air. But that's her style. You know, it's move a lot, try to add up points every 5 minutes, you know, hopefully be the fighter that's done more when it comes to adding up points. Katlyn Chookagian has the experience, you know, there's no secret what she's going to do here. She's going to try to outpoint Viviane. Now, Viviane is quite a powerful striker. She's well-rounded. The only problem is her gas tank isn't great. Her style is very fatiguing. You know, she's always bouncing on the feet. And that style, it can generate some power, especially when you're bouncing and then you step into the punch. It's exhausting though. Having said that, she's only going to get better with her conditioning in the UFC. She felt what it was like to lose to Jacare, got very tired. She's looked better with her cardio since then. It's another matchup which could go either way. You could kind of say this one's a pick'em too. I'm going to side with the Brazilian. I think she's more powerful, more damaging than Katlyn Chookagian. Obviously, you can see how Katlyn is going to win. It's going to be output. It's going to be pitter-patter, just adding up points. But for me, man, I hope Vivian translates the power to the target enough to win a decision. So that's what I'm going to go with. My numbers, I'd put Vivi around -140 to not get tired. And we've got, again, man, my odds are the complete opposite. We've got Katlyn -140, Vivian +110, +120. Man, I'm getting up there with the underdogs now. Alright, co-main event, we've got Tony Ferguson taking on Beneil Dariush. And we're going to start with Tony. So Tony Ferguson, one of the best lightweights to ever grace the octagon. That's just facts. This man has taken many souls. His cardio is pretty insane, you know, that's the only way to say it. His striking defense has never been great. He'll take your strikes, man. He's going to take what you've got to offer, and then he's going to be there after, and he's going to basically continue to dish out many nasty strikes until you can't go anymore. And that's what Tony Ferguson has done for many years. Now, he hasn't done that in his last 2 matchups. He didn't do that against Justin Gaethje. He tried, but Justin Gaethje was just... he was willing to die, man. He was willing to get in there and fight Tony's fight. And if it didn't go well, he was prepared to lose. But he gave it everything he had and he beat Tony Ferguson. He dished out unbelievable damage for Tony Ferguson. And then Tony fought the guy who's fighting for a title, Charlie Olives. He was nullified. He was taken to the mat and nullified round in, round out. And I took Charlie Olives via decision. And even I was pretty amazed that he was able to do that round in, round out. How many other guys are going to hold Tony Ferguson on the mat? That's what you have to ask yourself. You have to ask yourself, will Beneil Dariush be able to do that the way Charles the Bronx did? Now, Beneil Dariush, this guy is on a great winning streak. It's been a few seconds now since Hernandez was able to starch Beneil. 6 fights Beneil has won since that starching. He does deserve the opportunity to get a co-main spot against one of the best lightweights to ever do it. But I'm going to go against him here. I'm going to go against Beneil Dariush, and I'll tell you exactly why. I'm not ready to say that Tony's done. You know, it's just a personal opinion that I have. I took the Bronx to beat Tony. I didn't take Gaethje to beat Tony. I'm not going to take Beneil to beat Tony. Now, if Beneil Dariush can prove me wrong and say, hey, listen, I saw what the Bronx did. If you don't think I'm going to do that, well, sit back and enjoy the co-main. I'm going to do that round in, round out. If he does that, hey, credit to Beneil, man. Credit to Beneil, but I don't think he can do that. And if he can't do that, now you're left to fight Tony on the feet. And the only one time that Tony was beaten on the feet, it was against Justin Gaethje. Now Justin Gaethje is cut from a different cloth. That guy was willing to die. Is Beneil ready for a war on the feet if he can't hold down Tony Ferguson? I'm going to say no. My pick's going to be Tony Ferguson, man. I'm not ready to say that Tony is done. I'll take a Tony stoppage in round 3 or a decision. My numbers, I'm going to put Tony around -160. And I know that's not going to be the actual odds. We've got Tony +150. Beneil -160 all the way up to -190. Yeah, I've you know, every week I show up, guys, I give you my opinion, man. Whether it ages beautifully or it doesn't age too good. I ain't scared to speak it, man. I think Tony's going to win this one. I think he's going to show people, hey, look, I'm not done. And of course, man, with being a fight fan, you invest your emotions. And sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. If I'm wrong here, maybe I'll say it. Maybe I'll say Tony is done. But until I see Beneil Dariush prove it, nah, man. Tony, it's Tony time, co-main. It's Tony time. Alright, homies, main event. We've got Charlie Olives taking on Michael Chandler. If you haven't head-kicked the like button yet, go ahead and do that. If you're not subscribed, please go ahead and do that too. Alright, let's start with Charlie Olives. So Oliveira is primarily the best jiu-jitsu practitioner inside the UFC. Kind of difficult to argue with that considering he has the most submissions in the UFC. He's a wizard, man. You know, you go to the mat with Charles Oliveira and you're just amazed every time. His technique is just 10 out of 10. Everything he's doing with his jiu-jitsu game, he's the best in the UFC to do it. He's on a great run since losing to Paul Felder. I've taken him in pretty much every single fight. The only one I went against him, for some reason I took David Tamer, thinking his kickboxing would be enough, but it just wasn't. I took him against Kevin Lee. I took him against Tony Ferguson. Charles Oliveira is, in my opinion, he's underrated still. Even though he's on this big win streak, he is underrated, man. This guy is the best jiu-jitsu practitioner in the UFC. The opponent, Michael Chandler, 1 win, 0 losses inside the UFC. I know we were split in the debut against Dan Hooker. Really, really difficult matchup to predict. I did take Chandler in that one, but man, I didn't expect him to hurt Dan Hooker the way he did. Not many people can hurt Dan Hooker like that. And that's maybe why he's getting a title fight straight away. Guys, this is a great title fight. It's 50-50 again in my mind. You know, this pay-per-view is one of the best pay-per-views I've ever seen when it comes to matchmaking. I've picked Charles the Bronx many times on this journey. And I'm not going to do it in the title fight. I'm not going to do it, man. I think the narrative that Charles the Bronx slows down and quits, it's a valid narrative that I went against when he fought Kevin Lee. I went against it for Tony Ferguson. This time I'm gonna take that narrative. I think outside of round 1 and round 2, you're really gonna see the difference between heart, determination, and the willingness to want to be champion. I think that lies with Michael Chandler. So that's going to be my prediction, man. The finish could come on the feet. It could come on the mat. But I think after this fight, we're going to have Michael Chandler as champion. Now, if I'm wrong, it's a win-win because I love what Charles Oliveira has done. You know, on this journey to the title fight, he's just an underdog, you know. And he's proven a lot of people wrong on the way. But my prediction is going to be Michael Chandler to be the new 155 champion. My odds, I'm going to put these guys -110 each. You know, that's really the title fight we have on our hands, in my opinion. And we have Charlie Olives -130. He was an underdog against Kevin Lee. He was an underdog against Tony Ferguson. Now he's a favourite for the title fight. So yeah, guys, make sure you drop down all your underdog plays. I have many on this card. I'm just going to add them up how many I've got. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 7 underdogs out of 12 fights. This could go beautifully or this could go horribly. Either way, this is going to be a great pay-per-view card. Alright, homies, catch you in the comment section. Enjoy these fights and let's make some money. Alright, peace.